Hello, guys. Hello, everybody. Hello. I hope everybody's fine. Good evening to everybody. Welcome to Creating the Conversation podcast with Imran and Ivan. We are live and kicking. Hopefully, you guys had a hopefully you guys have had a good week, a brilliant week under the circumstances. Do you understand? We've just had another lockdown. Oh my God, Ivan, it's gone a bit crazy again. A lot of different communities, different people are feeling, 1 minute, you said I was allowed 6 people. Now I'm not allowed 3 people. What's going on? What's the government up to, Ivan?
Same again, like we said last week and the week before, the mixed messages again. People aren't, not everybody's getting the message and not understanding it. It's everything's sprung on us, do you know what I mean? And then sometimes you wait days for it to come into place. This time it's just come into place really quick. So I think that took a lot of people off guard. Around my way locally, we had an anti-vax, anti-mask, anti-corona sort of demo. 30 people turned up, including Jeremy Corbyn's brother was there. And the police issued their first £10,000 fine to a lady there who kept refusing. She had lots of chances, but ended up getting arrested and hit with a £10,000 fine.
So the thing is, we have a tendency. We have a tendency. We have a tendency to do this, isn't it? I don't want to be told. How dare you tell me? But then again, it has been, like you said, because of mixed messages, it's been really difficult, you know.
And once again, the online space is full of misinformation in a minute about many of things. So it's easy to get drawn into that rabbit hole.
And we are definitely gonna. This is something myself and Ivan have been talking about, our dear listeners. We are going to talk about conspiracies. We're going to talk about how conspiracies can be taken out of context. If someone has used and mentioned something online, we talk about fake news. All right, even our mainstream news is seen as fake news, and how sad is that today? All right, so we are definitely going to dedicate a program to that as well. So do stay with us in the future as well. And anyway, today our intention is, of course, to talk about a certain topic. There's been an incident today, a really serious one, all right, where there's been a fatality as well. Someone who has been known, it has been said that he has been known to the authorities as a terrorist, right? And Ivan, your thoughts on that of today? What's been going on and what the Twitter sphere has been screaming and shouting about?
It's not just Twitter, it's all social media really. Once again, something happens and then everybody's an expert, or everybody's got their little piece of the puzzle that doesn't really fit in. Like, to me, even if he was on the watch list or not, the problem was probably with the search. Do you know what I mean? Not that he was on there. Plus, I read the police statement earlier, and he was arrested for Class B drug. He was in handcuffs as well. So when they took him to the police holding centre or holding place, they went to get a metal detector. So they obviously had suspicions of something. And then that's when the shots happened. And then he turned the gun on himself as well. So that's the facts that the police are saying in the statement at the minute. I think that's the thing that people should be reading from genuine sites, not making up their own part of the story. Whatever happened, it's going to come out later on. But for now, this is how it is. Do you know what I mean? You got to think.
And I think
there's a family grieving.
That's right. And I think it is important that we will stay with the story. We'll stay as it progresses, as we find out more details about what's going on. But if we have a tendency to go on a bit of a tangent, oh, he's been known to the system, he's been known to the authorities, how come they didn't know this and how come they didn't know that? The thing is, the truth of the matter is all the facts have not come out at the moment. Once the facts come out, then we can make a particular judgment. And I think as people who are in a society, in a community where there is so much information that is accessible to us on our phones, on our tablets, on our laptops, all over the place, all right, from the social media to mainstream media. And what tends to happen is that certain information, right, is in the gray area. We don't know entirely how much truth there is. That's why it is important that we wait for the story to, evolve and become a full-fledged understand. We get a full-fledged understanding of what has really taken place. Anyway, that's my perspective. That's where I stand with this. I'm not ready to jump to a conclusion just for the fun of it. All right. I don't know what your position is, Ivan.
Now, I'm the same. I used to jump to conclusions, but meeting people who have been victims and survivors and their families, I think about things differently now before putting my opinion out there, because there's, like I said earlier, there's a grieving family. There's other police officers when that happened. The trauma that they're going to be suffering, do you know what I mean? I think the speculation, if their family members are reading that, it's like that ripple effect we talk about. It's not just the officer's family, it's the wider community, plus the police community, do you know what I mean? The police family. And then their friends. It's like a whirlwind beginning where it just spreads and spreads. We forget about that part of it when we make.
Let me ask you this, Ivan. Let me ask you this. Like you said, you were one of those individuals who will just jump to a particular conclusion. If it might see a report, might see maybe a tweet or whatever it is, and then you will make your judgment on it. Why would you do that? Doesn't it make more sense to get to the bottom of an issue, to get the full picture before a judgment is made? Why do we do this? What's wrong with this?
Back then, I was of a different mindset, obviously. Do you know what I mean? So a lot of the headlines probably triggered me or made me angry. It's different nowadays for me. The headlines don't anger me because I've learned from a past that look deeper into it, look for different sources, which is what I do now. So before, it'd be the first thing I see, and that is the truth. Do you know what I mean? No budging me on that is my viewpoint, and nobody was shifting that. Plus, nobody wanted to shift my viewpoint back then either. So,
why? What are you trying to say? You're going to beat him up?
Nah, nobody wanted to listen to me. Do you know what I mean? Nobody wanted to talk to anybody who had a different view. Do you know what I mean?
Now, and another thing is,
later, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. But the thing is that it's really sad that some of us, we just see a tweet or we see a small message on Facebook or something like that, and suddenly we create a full picture of that one statement made by whoever that person individual is, and that has consequences. It has consequences upon the larger community, other people who might be of the same ethnic background or same religious background or whatever it is. Some same particular demographic. Now, we don't realize the consequences of sharing particular type of information, right? Which is not entirely fully verified. And when that's not verified, it has sadly negative impact. And like you said, getting sources from all over the place, all right, from different places, different sources, different platforms, it is important that at least the stories are similar, all right? And then you come to a particular conclusion. You know what? This is what the truth is. What's your thoughts?
And that's the thing. The first place I normally check now after anything like this kind of thing is always the police sites, because that's where the truth's going to be, what happened. Do you know what I mean? So that's always my first port of call now if there's any kind of attack or anything, because it's easy to get caught down the rabbit hole on social media, because you see what it's like online when anything happens. There's all these different stories, conflicting stories, but to a lot of people they make sense.
Yeah, but let me ask you this, because look,
there's the rabbit hole again.
You just said that you will go to the police, local police website or whatever it is that where they are sharing information with the public. The problem is that nature of what's happening with this whole BLM stuff as well, around the relationship between police and ethnic minorities and particular communities. There's a lot of tension, right? Now, why would certain communities, do you think, would trust what the police are saying? Because they already have so much doubt in what they are saying, which is really sad, because the whole purpose of police was to protect us. We live in a civil society, and the purpose of police is to protect us. But the sad thing is, because of whatever reasonings there may be, that relationship has slowly diminished or has broken down. So when you say, oh yeah, I take my information from so and so, but Ivan, a lot of people don't do that. They don't trust them.
No, I get that. Do you know what I mean? So that's where the vulnerability comes from as well. Then I guess because you'll be more easily persuaded by something you see on social media than you would the reality again. Do you know what I mean? So I suppose they've got to build the trust again. Do you know what I mean? That's without a doubt. But if you don't trust them, the element of vulnerability for you, I think.
And I think building that trust is essential. This is one of the most difficult things that police forces up and down the country have had, and in fact nationally, all right, it's been an issue.
Yeah.
That reconnecting themselves with the community, and one of the main concerns has always been being representing the community and reflecting the community, mirroring the community, in the sense that people that are part of the police force, they are from them communities. Do you understand? So there are individuals from the Asian community, individuals from the West Indies community, the individuals from the white community, whatever they are from. Do you understand? From the north or the south, wherever they are from, they are represented equally. So when a particular young person or a particular individual in a community sees a police officer, they can also see, that person will understand there is a Sikh gentleman or a Muslim gentleman or a Christian gentleman. There's that aspect as well. And I think to rebuild, that particular relationship with the police, I think the police has tried. It's not that it hasn't. There has been, nationally recruitments of BAME communities, Black, Asian, minority, and ethnic communities. All right, they've tried that as best as they can, and they some in many cases they are successful. In many cases they're not that successful because of particular communities' relationships or lack of relationship. All right, over the years, but I think that reconnection is essential to create a relationship based upon trust, understanding, right? And then we can walk forward. Because like you said, they might be saying every truth underneath the sun. But if the relationship is not there and the trust has been diminished and destroyed, what's the use of that information, mate?
Yeah, that's true. But that's why the trust is so essential, because to combat a lot of the issues we're suffering, it's about community resilience, trusting in each other. Do you know what I mean? Reconnecting with each other. But some people have got more work to do than others. Do you know what I mean? That's the sad reality of it.
It is, and it's a two-way road. I've always said, within our communities as well. Okay, look, I work in the mainstream, right? I work in setups where predominantly individuals are not part of my religion or not part of my ethnicity, etc. Yeah. Now, one of the key things I have learned over time is that until you don't become proactive in doing that, right? It's not, and how can you expect people to know? It is hard sometimes. I'm going to be blunt. It is hard sometimes because you think, how do I make my space in that space? How do I find a space for myself for this voice to be heard? Do you know what I mean? Because people already, all right, have a stereotype of someone who may look like me or look like you. Do you understand? You're from a certain background. You're working class. You're this. You're that. All right. That you might not get the opportunity to say what you're really feeling. And I think with authority, with policing, with structures like that, it is important that individuals like yourself, myself, people from our backgrounds, people from different faiths, religions, can at least find a platform to discuss these sort of things. And this incident that's happened today, how horrific it is, right? And the loss of an individual like that, and someone whose duty is to protect others. Do you know what I'm saying? That's what it is. Yeah. And of course, before we make a judgment, it might be false. Wait for the complete facts. That's what's important, I think.
Yeah, I do as well. And what's even sadder to this is he's not the first police officer to be murdered this year. Do you know what I mean?
That's right.
There's been thousands injured as well. It's like we said about, was it acceptable to attack the people that are supposed to be protecting us?
It's a really difficult one, mate. It's a really difficult one.
Yeah,
You know, if the
the trust
relationship
has
doesn't
gone, like you
exist,
said. And you were right earlier. That's like that in a lot of different communities. Like where I live, there's not much trust either. Do you know what I mean? But obviously for different reasons. But there's still a lack of trust. Do you know what I mean?
I remember. Let me share something with you. I think being part of me and you education, one of the amongst many workshop and etc that we do, we also work with a local police, right? Especially new recruits and etc that come up in different boroughs, in different cities. And I think one of the key things I remember, our boss Irfan usually says is that sadly when we go and do our trainings or inform them about how things are and how there's a lack of understanding of the other. There's a lack of understanding of ethnic minorities. Do you understand? Or the sensitivities within that particular community. All right. And I think today's topic, all right, lies in that space, exactly in that particular space, because one of the biggest problems that we've had around prevent duty, and we'll talk about guys who are listening at this moment, and hopefully you'll be listening afterwards as well, is that this has been a very contentious, topic, or the contentious strategy, as you say, or duty, as they would say. All right, from the point go, really, when it started and it was implemented and it was put into place. All right, and of course, we myself and Ivan, we thought about this. That we're talking about creating the conversation around things which really impact us, right? And not knowing. Let me share this to you, Ivan. Not knowing if initially when it came into existence in 2003, right, and there was a lot of issues around. 1 minute, you were all only incorporated one particular community. We get it. That was the main threat, the so-called Islamist threat. Yeah, that's what it was because of the attacks that took place and etc. All right, and there was a strategy that was put into place. But the sad thing is, there was a particular community that felt that they were the target, right, of this particular strategy, and not knowing the sensitivities of that particular community, not knowing how the culture of that community works, not knowing why that community might not share certain type of information, all right, with the authority, because there is a lack of relationship or a non-existence of a relationship. Do you know what I mean? We never thought about that, right? We just superimposed certain things, put things into place, created a strategy, and bam, that created problems. I don't know what your experience is. All right, I'm from that community, and it was like, hey, 1 minute, I get it. This has happened. You want to keep people safe, but why are you coming after us, 1 minute? What have I done? What are you saying?
Yeah, I get that. Do you know what I mean? I do get that, but it's like that story we were talking about previous to. You got that the handy, because I found that quite interesting, because I learned something from that article you showed me earlier about the cameras. Have you got that one handy? Because that was quite interesting to find out that they were ANPR cameras. Do you know what I mean? And I think the interesting bit for me in that is because I think it was around 2010, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah.
If I remember rightly. Back then, I was in the EDL back then. Do you know what I mean? So when I read that, it kind of reinforced my step as well. But at the same time, if we're honest about things, Birmingham did have the label of the jihadi capital of the UK as well. Do you know what I mean? So that's what kind of reinforced what I already thought.
See, that became a bit of an issue because initially when it was put into place, right, it was really worrying. Because the thing, what happened was, of course, this is a Guardian article. Okay, it's 10 years old. All right, a lot has changed. People have moved on to a certain extent. All right, but this developed that sense of, mistrust with authority. All right, there was no real consultation. There was no real conversation. All right, that took place with the community and etc. Look at this. As the article goes on. All right, and it talks into a lot of detail that okay. For the vast majority of the people on the bustling streets of Washford Heath and Sparkbrook, two of the city's predominantly Muslim areas, the cameras were inconspicuous, melting into pavement filled with fruit stalls and fabric shops. All right. And it became an issue. But an investigation by The Guardian has established that the surveillance cameras are the first of a kind in the UK. The technology itself was very unique. Do you know what I mean? Now, suddenly, money's gone in. All right. We're talking about, this great threat of terrorism and etc. And our country's under threat and etc. And suddenly, these cameras go up, right? And and certain communities around certain mosques are around, not even mainstream. If the article, if people start reading the article, you read the article completely, it tells you there were side streets, there's cameras in side streets. Do you know what I'm saying? And that became a problem. And naturally, that played into the whole idea of mistrust and not having that real engagement with authority and position, with police and communities. In fact, it broke down. Like you said, Ivan, because your thoughts on this are slightly different. You want to share that?
Yeah, because I think if you scroll down a bit further in the article, no, it says there actually, I was wrong about it. Was there to monitor extremists. So the extremists, if they're in that population, I think it's justified. If you look at back then, 10 years ago, for instance, the Muslim bad guy, the Muslim extremist was visible. Do you know what I mean? We knew who they were. Do you know what I mean? And if that was the only way to catch these people, I think it could have been justified. But if the information was out there properly, I think
that's
maybe
the
a lot of
problem.
people will understand it. Because at the end of the day, it's just safeguarding again. It's safeguarding the community from people within it. Do you know what I mean? Because some people may know who they are, who probably won't give them up, but a lot of people they wouldn't speak to, they wouldn't know who they are. So maybe this was the only way to, you throw a net to hopefully catch a fish. Do you know what I mean? And maybe this was that kind of thing. It obviously worked. Do you know what I mean? Because
it probably was, mate. But the problem was, mate, it created more. It created an environment of mistrust. Right? People were not believing authority. They felt that they're being targeted. Now, like you said, maybe this is one strategy that they used, right, to target those individuals. Of course, we had these so-called hate preachers. We had individuals that had come out onto the streets. Well, we remember of some of the convictions that took place, or people that were picked up from the streets of Birmingham. No doubt, I don't disagree with that. That's true. But the problem is why should a large majority of community, a large percentage of community become the target when a few, right? Few individuals 1% or 0.0001% of individuals have done this. Suddenly the authorities feel, without consultation, without real conversation, all right, and that's the sad thing. What came out with this was that even the councillors themselves, even the people who were supposed to be in a place of authority and trust, felt that they were wronged and the information was not fully given to them, where the money is coming from, right, and who's giving it, how are they giving it, and why are they giving it. Now, I don't disagree that certain steps and certain measures need to take place. But see, I'm coming from a position where when my community, my people become the target, my people in the sense of the ethnicity side, religion side, right, it becomes very difficult. Because they start feeling, why are you being alienated for? Why are you being polarized for? Why have I been pushed into a corner when I did nothing wrong? Shouldn't every individual be judged individually? Isn't that what the law stipulates? Doesn't the law say that every individual should be dealt individually for whatever crime, wrong, false, good or bad that they've done? Isn't that what our judicial system and civil system has been built on?
I get that, but I've got a but.
Yeah.
The but is, I think, I'm not sticking up for anybody, it's just how I see it, is there's not enough money, there's not enough manpower to focus on them people individually. So maybe the cameras were the only way to catch them, if you see what I'm saying. But I do understand the mistrust coming in. But in the bigger context, they worked. That's how I see it, do you know what I mean? I'm not disputing anything from the other side, but this argument, this thing still comes up 10 years later. We've had the same discussion before in some of our training. It's a recurring thing, but people need to realise that things have moved on now. Do you know what I mean? But
it is. But what is this
so
done,
some
Ivan?
things,
What is done? It has moved on. But Ivan, look, what's happened is it's created that, massive gash, all right, in between particular communities, authority, and particular ethnic minority communities, Muslim communities. It's created that distance, all right, mistrust to a certain extent. And this is why I keep on banging on about the same thing. Guys, we need to do more work over this. I get it. It's been 10 years, right? And let me share something with you. The conclusion of the article was very clear, that it was wrongly done. It should not be done like that, regardless. Ivan, what you were saying, regardless that it was a strategy, it was a tool that was used, but it should have been used overtly, not covertly, right? And you have to stay in conversation with people. If you're not going to stay in conversation with people, people are not going to engage. This is why, we have a dialogue, we have conversation. There's 1,001 things that I don't agree with you, but there's 1,001 things I do agree with you. But even I only come to that agreement after we've had a dialogue, we've had a discussion, we've had a conversation. Do you know what I'm saying? Now, once we've had that, then I start understanding. 1 minute, I know where it's coming from. Problem is that because this is a very contentious issue anyway, a problem anyway, the strategy was very problematic initially when it came out. All right, I don't disagree that within the strategy itself, and let me share this with you. I don't want to just bang on about something that which is not right to do that. But the strategy itself, the 2011 prevent strategy, all right, it was amended, all right, and let me share that with you. All right, I'm going to share that as well, so maybe our viewers afterwards, they can look into this, right, and it'll be interesting for them to read for themselves as well. What the whole purpose of this is that individuals can go back and do some research, because one of the problems I've always had, and I know as me and you as a brand, one of the key things that we keep on talking about is, before you make a judgment, before you come to a snap judgment of something, go away, do your research, go away, learn about it, understand, get the whole picture, and then make a judgment. Look at this. Here, of course, this is 2011 prevent strategy has 3 specific strategic objectives. This was amended from 2003, right? Now, what you get in this, Ivan, is that if you look through this, all right. So look at this. The prevent strategy was explicitly changed in 2011 to deal with all formal extremism and with non-violent extremism. Problem was that in 2003 that didn't happen. 2003, all right, the fear factor was they're the main individuals, we're going to go after them, and they did. And by the state of the system going after them, what did you get? You created a relationship which is based upon what? Mistrust, alienation, polarization, fear. That's what happened. This is why later on in 2011 there had to be amendment. And look what it says. I only want to share this, and it's important that people understand. I'm also talking to our anti-prevent lobby as well at the same time, because we understand where you're coming from. We understand why you're making this argument, right? This exists. This is against us. This has been created to dismantle us, or whatever your statement or position may be. But the thing is, there have been some amendments. And if you look at this very carefully, look what it says. Initially, of course, our prevent work is intended to deal with all kinds of terrorist threat to the UK. The most significant of these threats is currently from terrorist organizations in Syria and Iraq and etc. Of course, what you find. Then, of course, a discussion is around Islamists. Then at the bottom, you have the white supremacist ideology of extreme right-wing groups. Ivan, this was one of the first times that this was spoken about. This is the first time it's been spoken about on a official legal, government document. Now, especially someone like myself who goes into a lot of research and looks at it and studies it and understands it, I can understand why the grievances take place. Because once it's down black and white, it becomes law. When it becomes law, it gets implemented. When it gets implemented, someone is going to get the brunt of it, mate. This is why People need to think before they. Ugh. Tell me, man. Come on, help me, bro.
I was just reading it then. Do you know what I mean? I think it's. I get where you're coming from. I really do, but I didn't think that. I don't think that Prevent or anybody in the government realised the reaction that people like Ajahn Chowdhury would cause. This is why they had to implement it. I think. Do you know what I mean? Because I blame Ajahn Chowdhury for a lot, and he is a lot to blame for the division in our country over the years, and that with help of the media, social media, and things like that. He was able to. And that damage is still here 10 years on.
It is.
Because every time there's a terror attack or something, or some terror bust, 9 times out of 10, there's a link to Ajahn Chowdhury still. So that fear or that threat from him, people still have that. Do you know what I mean? Because it's that mindset has carried on through the years, and even though he's not been able to do nothing because he's been released from prison, he's under strict conditions and everything, he's still being linked to things years on. It's quite scary to the normal person out there.
No, it is. The all of the research that has been done, that there have been a number of individuals that have been very crucial in creating a particular type of atmosphere within this society, within Western Europe, within England, and of course beyond that. The issue is that when certain individuals, right, feel that they have the right to say whatever they want, however they want, right, because they have freedom of speech, people would, and someone like the individual that you just been speaking about, he felt that he had that right. He felt that he could say whatever he wanted. And in fact, he did this for over 20 years. And when the research was done, when the police and etc. and CID and etc. had gone through all of the documentation with the clips that he's made and etc., he got convicted, right? In somewhere by saying that you should affiliate or connect yourself with whoever, with ISIS or whichever extremist organization it was. That's the point that they picked him on, and he got, was it 5 years and did 2.5, something like that. That's what he done.
Yeah.
Now, the truth of the matter is, like you said, he's connected to many other activities as well, other individuals, and we spoke about this last week, with Kath as well, our friend Kath, and something that we discussed, that sadly there are groomers and radicalizers who take advantage of vulnerable young men and women, right? And because of their own personal ideologies, right? They don't do it themselves. 20 odd years, he didn't do anything himself.
Yeah.
But on the streets of streets of London, streets of other towns and cities up down the country, he screamed and shouted about whatever it was, and young men and women had taken his cause forward. And today, them same young men and women are doing time. Some have lost their lives because they've gone abroad. Not only impacting them as individuals, but impacting their families. Right? And a number of individuals who want to come back to the country, there's restrictions for them to come back into the country because they say the country itself, the government itself says, 1 minute, you fought against us, so we revoke your citizenship. So there's a lot that has happened, and sadly, the communities which always wanted to do what? They came here as economic migrants. That's what we are. My forefathers are economic migrants, mate. We are working class. And we've worked hard. And let me share something with you, which a lot of our communities don't. I'm talking about our host communities don't usually reflect over. This country was on its knees, mate. Forget that. It was on its belly.
Yeah.
After Second World War, it was on its belly, mate. Economically, infrastructure-wise, everything. And sadly, so many men had died. Now, they needed a force to help and support. What did they do? They looked at the Commonwealth. And suddenly people are coming from, the West Indies, people are coming in from, India, people are coming in from all over the place to do what? To their homeland. Let me share that with you. We don't talk about this.
Yeah.
Today, these same individuals who might look a bit different, color might be different, or thinking might be different, or they go to the mosque and we go to the church and we go to the pub or whatever we do, suddenly they become the opposition. Wow, a minute. Get to know his history, man. Study it. And then when you understand all of that, then when the Windrush scandal happens, you can understand how deep that pain would be of those individuals who've been impacted by it. When this sudden jolting of certain type of legislation was put into place in 2003 after the attacks that took place, and certain communities, Muslim communities or ethnic communities, etc., they felt targeted. Now you can understand why they're feeling like that. Wow, a minute. We are part and parcel of this system. Like or dislike the system, that's a side issue. We can debate about that. But it's a system, isn't it? And here, Ivan, I've just put up, this is from the 2005, in fact. The strategy itself, it was called Counterterrorism Strategy, the contest. And I wanted to put this up because we are talking about prevent duty. And is it working? Now, oh my God, it was, how should I put it? It's always been a work in progress, to be truthful with you. And within the judicial structure, within the legal structures of this country, what you find is that any bill, any act, any strategy, any duty takes time to evolve. And what you find is that it boiled down to four things, which was prepare, protect, and pursue, right? So the idea was, if an attack took place, they will prepare, put things into place, so the police and other services. Protect, physical protection of buildings, right, of football pitches and clubs and etc. And important government buildings etc. will become protected, and hospitals. And then pursue, simply to go after the bad people, the bad guys who committed a particular crime, right? But prevent itself, the last P, has always been in a space, right, which is the non-criminal space. Do you know what I'm saying? It's always been in the non-criminal space. Sadly, all right, people have, and I'm talking about from the other side as well, individuals who are from particular communities who have felt targeted, who have felt marginalized, who have felt pointed at. That when prevent was said, suddenly prevent became what? The worst dirty word in the world. How dare you say this? Whereas in reality, and trust me, when you read into it, when you know about it, when you study it, you find the whole purpose was before. But sadly, people have taken this to mean within when an attack takes place. So you're preparing us, or you're already looking at us in a negative, in a false way. But that's learning, isn't it?
And that's the other thing about prevent. That little space, that little get below the line, it was called pre-criminal, wasn't it?
Yes.
And that just adds to the assumption that you're going to go on to do something criminal, which is why we use the same non-criminal, because it should be kind of non-judgmental as well. Do you know what I mean? Because you don't know that they're going to go. 9 times out of 10, they're not going to do anything like that. But calling it pre-criminal, it increases their vulnerability to do something, I think. Do you know what I mean?
And look, Ivan, you hit the nail on the head. That's the problem. Terminology. And I think one of the biggest issues that we've had, and look, let's get this. I'm a citizen of this country, yeah? Right? I'm a taxpayer like you are, mate. Do you know what I'm saying? Look, I have a right to say what the hell's going on. So when the government doesn't use this, people who are making these strategies, they're not thinking. You can't say stuff like that. Because what you're doing is you're already putting people in a very difficult situation, immense predicament, thinking, 1 minute, people are going to come through my door. Things are happening. People are finding things. Like we spoke with Kath last week, didn't we? And what did she say? She goes, I approached, the channel process, right, which became a part of the whole prevent duty, right? Now, she said, in my case, it didn't work. in her case, in her circumstance situation, right? But that didn't mean that it doesn't work. It worked in certain cases, in certain circumstances. But what had to happen was every individual is dealt individually. And once again, emphasizing, Ivan, what you're saying is that it's the non-criminal space, man.
And that's where people get confused, and the anti-prevent lobby do push this kind of false bit here and there. Do you know what I mean? If there's too many people criticising prevent, when realistically we should realise that nothing ever is 1,000% or 100% guaranteed to work every time. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everybody is individual, and like I say, it's evolving. It's not like it was 10 years ago. Things are changing, and it is getting better. You can see that by how many referrals and everything's coming in now. It's working. But when people criticise it, they only criticise it. They never offer a solution or some advice where they want to talk to each other. Nobody's prepared to come together to talk, to have that conversation with some of them. Do you know what I mean? And that's preventing the trust coming back. Well, not even the trust, the faith, because prevent is working without a doubt. Do you know what I mean? It's helped so many people. So, and that's the only thing out there, really. Do you know what I mean? That's there. Do you know what I mean?
I think, Ivan, really what's happened is, no, let me share with you. You know, I think what's happened is that because the word prevent itself has been used and abused so many times and been used as the pre-criminal space and this and that, whatever, and it's been defined in a particular way, it has created these problems. It has created these problems.
Yeah,
and I think initially, I believe it was suggested to him. I'll come back to you on that. It was suggested to him. Maybe you need to change that, because in reality, it is exactly what's in front of us. It's the purpose of it was safeguarding individuals who might become prone to type of radicalized ideas or extremist ideas, right? And to make sure that they don't walk down a certain pathway. That's what it was. But because it's being used and abused, people become, 1 minute, I don't want to touch this, even with a barge stick. I don't want to engage with this.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I don't disagree that's go for it.
Even if you rebrand it and call it something else, prevent says what it is on the tin. It's preventing. So prevent is a perfect name for it. Do you know what I mean? Even though what people need to realise is prevent, all it is safeguarding. Nothing more, nothing less. It's nothing new big secret thing.
But only thing is, Ivan, the only thing is, the problem is, mate, that because historically, right, under this particular duty or strategy, things didn't happen with sensitivity and with understanding. All right. I have learned, I'm talking from my perspective, and I talk about this. I discuss this with my own community. I discuss this with my friends and people that I associate and engage with, that things have changed. Things have moved on. But because initially it was dealt with immense insensitivity, right, and not understanding how much impact it could have by already, creating a gash or creating a distance between communities which you don't really have a relationship with. Thank God we've had people who are coming out of them communities, who are trying to reconnect with the main community. Main community is trying to do something back in response, but it demands genuine understanding from both sides. And it needs to be done. And this is why we keep on talking about this, that don't do, because they're difficult conversations, right? Don't just shut them up. No, don't mute them. Talk about them, discuss them, bring them out into light, and let's deal with them. Because until we don't deal with them, they'll keep on harboring and become a very cancerous type of illness within our bodies. And the only way we will be able to deal with them then is to cut them out. We can't do that. What would you say?
Yeah, it's the same thing. Everybody's got that blinkered view, whatever they believe in it. And like we always say, it's not until we get around that table and talk to each other that you've got any hope of finding a way forward or a solution or something different. It's just that simple. People need to sit around the table. If you want change, you got to be at change, not by criticising, by being proactive to make change.
And it's important that we create spaces, because the thing is, especially the subject that we spoke about and discussed about prevent duty, is it working? Look, an incident has happened today. There's a number of incidents that happen in the very near future, very near past, sorry, or that have occurred and taken place. Right now, no doubt, there are certain people that are known to the system, okay, that have been up to mischief and up to a particular type of activities and etc. I don't disagree. It's not always possible to have surveillance 24/7 over someone. It's not possible to do that. They are humans at the end of the day. But at every level, and this is something I'm going to emphasize, because I work in a certain environment. We work with the guy. Let me share something with you. We'll work with the guy. We'll help the guy to, find some remorse and as come to a point. You made a mistake, bro. You done wrong, right? So he comes to his acknowledgement. Yeah, I've done wrong. Okay. Now he's trying to amend that. He's trying to rectify that, right? So the first point of forgiveness, he tries to get that. Then he goes to rehabilitation. Okay. There's a rehabilitation process of that individual's thinking, reflection. It could be ideological intervention, there could be theological intervention, there could be psychological intervention. There's all different types of intervention that exist in the system itself. Now, imagine this, mate. You've done all of that. The guy's done his time. He's on a license. He's getting out. Whatever crime. I'm not talking about a particular crime now. I'm talking about any crime. Now, the person's come out. Now, the people outside, right, they need to acknowledge, the system outside also has to acknowledge that work has been done. This person has gone through a process from the time this person got convicted to the time that they've come out back into the community. There's been a period in between that this guy has been through, or this individual, this lady, or this man has gone through some sort of rehabilitative process. Our problem is, mate, is that when they come out, individuals are still looking at them as the day they went in, bro. And that's the problem. That's the problem. So some of these characters are like, you know what? If you're going to see me like that, middle finger to you, mate. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm going to do exactly what you think I am. So there has to be a change of culture. There has to be a change of mindset. Giving someone an opportunity, right? Not saying, let him go free, get him, do whatever you want. This, that. No. This is, we don't live in an anarchy. We don't in a system which doesn't have an organization structure. We have all of that. Retain that, but at the same time, bro, what do? You don't see them as the day they went in. See them from the day that they've come out. Have they changed? Is there change of mindset? Have the grievances been dealt with? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get that, but I'm not blaming media again, but the TV. Documentaries again. When they do a prison documentary, it doesn't portray that side of prison. Do you see what I'm saying? It shows the people mucking around and getting away with stuff that you don't expect to happen in prison. They don't show that positive steps, what's happening to people, because they'll always show that minority of bad boys in the prison. So maybe our perceptions come from there still, because you see people like that not changing, and you forget about they go through that process that you just explained. Because you don't see it, you don't know it happens, because your perception is maybe took from a documentary.
And that is it. And I think
all documentaries.
Yeah, and you're right. And we are. Go for it.
It's like all documentaries. They're missing that one little valid bit that would change people's thinking, that positive side. It doesn't matter what documentary it is, it's always missing from there. And that's where I think the ability comes to make people quickly think for themselves.
Yeah.
Is where
and I'm going to say this.
Put that bit into it.
Let me throw this out. I'm going to throw this out. Once this gets to the community, once people start listening and etc., I'm going to put this out there. If there are people, if there are directors, if there are people who make documentary films and etc., and you wanna genuinely show the real face of what's going on, all right, in dealing with particular type of inmates or prisoners or convicts or whatever they are, all right, and their process of rehabilitation, come forward. Let's have a chat. Let's have a conversation, right? Let's see what's the real face of what's been going on in the judicial structure, all right, within penal system that has been provided. Let's do that. Let's show the public, all right, what they're paying for. Let's show the public, all right, for all of these years of putting strategies into place, duties into place, what the hell has come out of it? Do you know what I mean? The public has the right to know.
And just thinking about that, what I said about the documentaries, Imran, right? We also have an American influence of documentaries as well about prisons. Look on Netflix, there's loads of different series about prison, and the American prisons are nothing like our prisons, but it always shows the bad side. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't show any positives. Do you know what I mean? So this is why our perception is always, once a bad guy, they're always a bad guy. Do you know what I mean? It's like for me sometimes still, I'm still seeing it as my past. And I left that behind 6 years ago. Do you know what I mean? Some people don't see me for me now in the present. Do you know what I mean? Let alone what I can bring in the future, because my past is all they want to see.
What change would you want? What change would you want, Ivan? On a personal level, all right, a person who's gone through this particular journey, you've been out for about 6 years now, and etc. You just spoke about prevent duty itself. Of course, this is before any type of crime and etc. takes place. But there's also a opportunity to do some after work, support that's taking place afterwards when someone has gone through this type of experience or this type of extremist lifestyle, as you would say, or very extreme lifestyle.
Yeah, I think that's also missing from prevent. The great work get done by the IPs, various IPs for whatever they do. But once
intervention providers.
Once that's finished, that person's kind of left in the lurch a bit. He's sort of like, for me, thrown to the wolves a little bit. I think that person, whoever they are, they maybe need something else for 12 months, maybe. Like, not an IP, because that work's been done. They need like a mentor, somebody can keep in touch with them, be a friend. If there's a problem, they can talk to you, because that period of when you leave something like that, it was like that for me for about 12 months, 18 months, that feeling of there was no support for me because I did it myself. Do you know what I mean? Prevent didn't help me, I did it myself. So there's that period of 12 to 18 months where you're lost. You don't know, you lost all your friends, you lost that sense of belonging, you've lost the last 5 years of my life, it's vanished overnight. So it's hard to find your place back not in society, but it's hard for me to find my place where I fit now because
that's the hard bit
of my life's experiences. Do you know what I mean? I'm kind of not in nowhere land. I know where I'm heading, and I'm kind of in the edge. Do you know what I mean? But sometimes people are lost for another 12 months after they leave, and that's when they need the support because all their vulnerabilities come back to them. I was quite lucky. I was quite stubborn and quite resilient.
Yeah, stubborn. Yeah, that's true.
Do you know what I mean? So I think a lot of people, their vulnerabilities would be stronger in that period. Once they've gone past the 12 months and they've got some normality back in their life, they'll be all right. But they just need that added support. That one, just not even, it doesn't have to be daily enough, and just when they need it. Yeah. So I mean, if they still have if they see something that angers them and they don't know how to react or what to sort of do about it, they can speak to somebody, a mentor, and they can say, look, you've got a valid concern there, but look at this part and this part as well with that. Do you know what I mean? You just need somebody just to help them that little bit further, to help them quickly think, because that 12 months is vulnerable. Do you know what I mean? Because
it is, and let me share with you. I come from the youth. I come from the youth sector. Just hold your thought. I come from the youth sector, and as a youth worker, as a youth mentor, there's a project that we used to do called Big Brother, Big Sister. And what it was helping young men and women. That's what they are, young people, all right, who may not have that support and help from home. Okay, they might not have people that they can go out with. They might not have people who may genuinely give them that other side of life. You know, they don't have that. So suddenly, within the youth sector, they had this. When the funding was there, let me be clear. When the funding was there, all right, the support and help was there. And I remember when I was myself, when I was working fully completely within that particular sector of youth worker and etc. And we did that. And I tell you, and I get 100% what you're trying to say is that just by leaving someone to fend for themselves, it's not always, it doesn't work. You've done a little bit of work with them, ideologically, theologically, whatever you've done. But after that, that genuine regular engagement with someone who they look up to, someone they might respect, there's someone they might, see as someone like a big sister or big brother. That was one of the projects that were done in especially the youth club that I was working at. And it had a powerful impact upon the young person's mindset, way of thinking, reflection. If they were rebellious, if they were already having trouble and problem, because some of the young men and women had become young offenders, right? So they already had gone down a pathway which was, detrimental for them. But when you look at an individual that they need a little bit more support, right? It's not only for them to make them understand, make them to come to acknowledgement or realization, oh, I messed up. That's one thing. That's important. But once they know they've messed up, what do you do now? Do you say, oh, you messed up and now defend for yourself? That doesn't help, because they've got no pathway. They've got no destination. They've got no pathway, right? So from my experience as a youth worker, I understand 100% what you're trying to say, right? And it's very powerful, and I agree with you on that.
And that's why my passion is helping the vulnerable people. I talk about the far right, I do, because I work with you, but for me, it's about the people, the ones on the fringes, the ones who aren't being listened to by the right people. And especially the last 3 or 4 months with the lockdown and the conspiracy theories at the minute, there's a lot of ordinary people getting drawn into rabbit holes, and that's where my passion lies. Do you know what I mean? I think the ideology is being tackled great in the UK. I think we're pretty good at that. What we're not good at is getting our hands dirty and stepping out of our comfort zone and tackling the real issues.
Yeah,
it's like we're always a reaction to something. It should be about prevention. Not we've reacted for too many years, and look where we are. Let's try preventing something this time. Let's get the work done at the grassroots level, because there's too many people getting mixed up in all sorts of crazy ideologies. It's not the ideology. It's the pick and mix ideologies nowadays. It's dangerous. A bit of everything. Do you know what I mean? So we've got a lot of vulnerable people at the minute. And if we go into a second national lockdown, we've got more vulnerable people. It's testing times we live in. We've said that before. And I think we'll be saying it for the next few years as well. It's testing times. There's no easy solution apart from stepping out of our comfort zones. Because 9 times out of 10, that's where change happens, outside your comfort zone. We just need to get more people outside theirs. We want people who are passionate about change. Do you know what I mean?
Aye.
Not just in it for the easy ride. Do you know what I mean? There's too many people that do good work, but that's what they do. They don't step out their comfort zone. They do what they feel comfortable with. It's time to change things. We all have to step out of our comfort zone. You break the mold, because whatever we've been doing for the last 30 years isn't working. We need to rethink, replan, and look at strategies differently. We have to stop looking for a boogeyman, because I think when you're looking for a boogeyman so much, you're wasting money, you're throwing money away, when you could be spending that money on a different strategy. Building community resilience, for example, would be better spent doing that. And while we're on a bit of a rant, funding, do you know what I mean? When people get funded for 12 months or 24 months, 2 years, I don't think that's good enough, because I've been in this world 3.5 years now, and I've seen lots of good people with great projects, and then they disappeared. We don't see them no more because the funders run out or they don't get extra funding. that kind of funding for 12 months, 24 months is like putting plasters on open wounds. It's an awareness. I think you need at least 5 to 10 years to do the awareness, to instigate change, and then hopefully see an impact at the end of it. I think people need more time. I just don't feel that 12 months is enough time to make any kind of difference. Rant over.
No, it's real. You know, I mean, Ivan, you're right. Yeah, mate, you're making sense. Do you know what I mean? And I, one of the biggest problems that we always have is that when someone is making sense, we're not ready to listen to. Right? We think, yeah, it's just going on a bit of rant.
I've had that for a few years.
Yeah, of course we have. You know, I get that, but I think we need to start. It's like this, isn't it? You've been there, done that, right? You've had the T-shirt, you've seen how it is, you've had it signed. You're coming out, you're saying 1 minute. I get on a governance level, on a government level, on a higher level, what strategies you have and what duties you have. But for God's sake, don't forget the human element in this, the human being, the one who needs a little bit more than just intervention, this intervention, that. All right, it's much more than that. And I, like you said, it is what we've been doing is that we've just been putting plasters, all right, on an infested, scar or whatever is underneath. And the problem is the infestation has not been removed. It's increasing, and it's got to a place where we're not ready to have a discussion. We're not ready to have conversation. All right, we see everyone as the enemy. We see everyone as, they're wrong. But sometimes, Ivan, look, man, and I think this is something that we need to, hopefully we can talk about in the future as well, is someone like yourself, someone like myself, who can sit and have a conversation. Look, I'm a person of faith. I come from a particular background. You're a person of this world. You understand, how it works, and you come from a certain background. But we can at least have a conversation. We can at least have a discussion. Might not agree with you, but at least it's come out in the air, hasn't it? It's come out of my chest. It's come out of my mind, and we can have a discussion or a conversation. All right. Any final words, Ivan, on today?
No, I think we covered quite a lot tonight. Just everyone stay safe, wear a mask, just in case we don't want another lockdown. We can't do another one of them.
And we can't. And I think I will, re-emphasize what my mate Ivan is saying, guys. I know there's a number of things that we've talked about, discussed about today. Of course, there's a serious element. We have a laugh here and there as well. But ultimately, the purpose of this particular podcast, creating the conversation, me and you education, as a podcast, is to bring things out, real issues, real concerns, something that people need to discuss and converse about, and create change. And genuine change with a human element, right? And keeping the humanity in the center of whatever we are doing. Guys, peace out, and God bless you, mate. And you take it as well. And I hope to see you next week. Ciao, bro.